Hi, everyone, and welcome back to this next in the series of these wonderful podcasts I've been a part of, where we've been speaking to incredible people who've done amazing work for animals over the many decades that they've been involved, and the lives of these they've been able to save, and the change that they've been able to enact. And we've spoken to some incredible people, and none any more incredible than the woman that we're speaking to today. And we're talking today with Saskia Adams, co-founder and president of Forever Friends Animal Rescue. Now, so they've been advocating for more humane and progressive animal welfare legislation Australia-wide, and that's always been a lifelong dream of Saskia's. And in 2011, she co-founded Forever Friends, which is a registered charity run entirely by volunteers that rescues and rehabilitates the most vulnerable animals in our community, the abandoned, abused, and elderly and sick. From dogs, cats to rabbits, former racehorses and farmed animals. Their over 900 strong volunteer team works tirelessly 7 days a week to save lives of all animals in all spaces. Saskia was also the co-founder of Pound Reform Alliance Australia and is in the process of setting up Companion Animal Rescue Australia with other rescue colleagues and former shelter workers. Welcome, Saskia. How are you doing in this, what is clearly a really challenging time for everybody?
Well, thanks for inviting me to chat today, Andy. Look, we're doing pretty well. A silver lining during COVID is that there has been a large increase in the number of people wanting to adopt rescue pets, which is really encouraging. We've had some cats, for example, who have waited 3 or 4 years to be adopted to find their forever homes in the last month. So that's just fantastic. I suppose what isn't so easy is that many of the usual methods of fundraising for rescue organisations are not possible, whether that be tin shapes or trivia nights. So financially, I think a lot of rescues are struggling and needing to really think on our feet to try and find new ways to make ends meet. Add to that is the fact that almost all rescues are volunteer run, like Forever Friends, and don't have paid fundraising staff like large charities do. So I do encourage your listeners to consider financially supporting their local animal rescue organisation at this time, because I know a lot of them are doing it tough. But in terms of Forever Friends specifically, we have an incredible team of volunteers who never fail to rise to a challenge. And the only, I think, concerns that are standing out for us right now is that the number of animal surrender requests we receive has been on the rise lately, and some of those owners do actually mention financial difficulties due to COVID. And the other big thing on the plate is that kitten season is about to hit, so we are really trying to prepare for that very challenging animal.
Sorry, Saskia, we just had one of those typical problems with online meetings. That last sentence that you had froze, unfortunately. Do you want to repeat that for us?
Yeah. Of concern is that the number of animal surrender requests we receive has been on the rise lately, with people mentioning financial difficulties due to COVID. And the other big thing is kitten season is about to hit, so we're really trying to prepare for that very challenging animal onslaught.
Kitten season is an enormous strain on the resources of so many shelters and different organisations every year. Look, I know one of the things that many organisations are calling for is, government subsidised and year-long desexing programs, which in the appropriate circumstances will obviously assist with, all sorts of problems surrounding that scenario. The animals, the cats don't wander, or tend not to, and you have so many new kittens not coming into the system as a result as well, and it becomes a more manageable problem. One of the things, terms I heard mentioned the other day was the law of diminishing financial responsibility, in that if this was government subsidised to a set amount per year for the next 3 to 4 years, then after that period, you would see a diminishing need for a commitment in financial terms to any government that undertook this.
Oh, absolutely. It's been proven all over the world that, and also in parts of Victoria where councils take on free desexing programs, they do have to be free. Low cost ones have been shown not to be as successful, that there is a take up amongst people who want to have their pets desexed. And there are demonstrative improvements very quickly with the impound numbers of cats and kittens. We can see it happen quite quickly. And as you say, councils and shelters will save millions of dollars in the long term. So I think free desexing has to be on the government agenda if we are ever to, even begin to tackle the problem of unwanted cats and also trap, neuter and release. It just has to be. It's been successful all over the world, and it can be here as well.
Mm. Well, look, to get into some other points about what I'd like to discuss today, during the intro, I gave a short summary of what Forever Friends Animal Rescue does, and it was a very brief, sort of very broad statement about the types of things we're involved in. And I know that the people listening today would love to hear about how this organisation started and a lot more about all of that amazing work that you do, which includes the rescuing, rehab, and finding homes. So can you just give us a longer explanation of how this all came about and the types of work that you're involved in a bit more in depth?
Absolutely. I will just grab the little guy who's responsible. I'll be
No worries.
2 secs. Asleep. All right.
Oh, look at him. Hello. Hello, sweetheart.
This is Ned.
Hello, Ned.
So, animal rescue for me started almost 13 years ago when I decided to become a foster carer for another rescue group in Melbourne. And the first little rescue dog who came to me from a country pound changed my life forever. And this is him. This is Ned. And I foster failed this little guy, I think, within about 24 hours. But what blew my mind meeting Ned was knowing that just hours prior, this young, healthy, loving little dog was on death row in a country pound. And I wondered with horror how many more Neds are on death row right now and how many more Neds don't make it out alive. And I knew then I had to do what I could to save more animals like Ned. So I gave up a career in publishing, which I really loved. I still miss. But Forever Friends was born, and that's almost 10 years ago. And since then, our team's gone on to save over 8,000 lives and counting. And we've expanded from only assisting dogs and cats to all species of animals. So that includes ex-race horses and former battery hens. And we've even rescued and rehomed some goldfish and a huntsman spider.
Did the spider have a name?
And I think it was Harriet. Yeah. My sister's laughing in the background as well. And right now we're actually entering a really exciting new phase in our development. We're building a rehabilitation kennels and cattery at our sanctuary in the Yarra Valley so that we can help more companion animals in need when we might not have foster carers available at short notice. So that we do get calls from vet clinics and pounds to say, this animal will be killed this afternoon by 5 o'clock. Can you come pick them up? And if we don't have a foster carer, ready and waiting, if we don't know much about that animal, particularly dogs, there's no way we can just suddenly pull a foster carer out of the air. So the kennels and cattery will enable us to save a great many more lives. And those animals who also need more behavioural and medical rehab can also come to the kennels and the cattery and just have that bit of extra treatment they need before they're ready for rehoming. So we're busily building and we're busily fundraising and hope to be up and running by Christmas.
So this is in many ways a halfway house, if you like, for animals that might otherwise be at the larger pounds or shelter types that euthanize many animals. Let's be honest. So this is a halfway house for those animals on their way to somewhere else. So they've already been saved. It's just now, who are they going to be placed with?
Exactly, yeah. So we're all really excited about it, and can't wait to expand the number of animals we can assist. Like Ned.
Yeah, well, Ned's just absolutely beautiful, and look, that segues really well. That's an amazing initiative. I think that's absolutely extraordinary, and I guess that segues really well into my next question. As you and our listeners will know, one of my priority campaigns at the moment is pound and shelter reform, and that's to stop thousands of healthy animals being killed in shelters and pounds across Victoria simply because it's convenient. And there are countless examples of dogs and cats who are refused a second chance despite offers to foster and rehome. Saskia, as someone who's dedicated their life to exactly that, to rescuing and rehoming animals, what's been your experience with convenience killing?
I think the saddest fact is that the most dangerous places for companion animals in our community are pounds and shelters. And these are the very places that should be safe havens and sanctuaries for at-risk homeless pets, and yet it's the place where most of our animals actually die. And having said that, there's some pounds and shelters doing incredible work. I'm certainly not tarring them all with the same brush, but over the past 10 years or so, I've heard and seen countless cases of killing, which has simply no ethical or legal justification. And I think it really highlights how the 10 years old code of practice fails to protect homeless animals. It's hopelessly out of touch with community expectations and must be reviewed and rewritten. For example, most Victorians wouldn't know that the code of practice still allows euthanasia by methods other than vet barbiturate overdose. It states that the preferred method of euthanasia is barbiturate overdose, but any method of euthanasia must be carried out humanely. So it is completely legal for a country pound to take dogs and cats down to the local tip and shoot them there. And it has happened. There was a well-documented case a few years ago in the country where a witness saw kittens being shot out the back of a country pound, and this is still completely legal. Furthermore, there are many pounds and shelters that still refuse to work with rescue groups or only do so in a token way, saving the best and killing the rest. I think the only way the lives of homeless pets matter is to advocate for change in practice, because it allows for convenience killing. It promotes a lack of transparency in our pound and shelter system. These facilities are not required to report their kill stats to the public or state government, all the reasons why animals die in their care.
I think you've articulated extremely well, and certainly better than I could, the need, a demonstration, if you like, to everybody out there who might question the need for pound and shelter reform to begin with. But I think you've also really clobbered the inadequacies of the codes of practice, which actually sit under the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals Act, which was written in 1986, has never had a review, and therefore, which is about, and it's about to undergo that review. And those codes of practice sit under that. So when public consultation appears, and it will, and they'll be advertised, I encourage everyone who's watching and listening today to make sure that you make a submission. And specifically, if this is an area of great concern for you, target those codes of practice. In your submission, let the government know that you want to see those completely reviewed. And in many instances, some of them are so outdated that they should just be thrown out. And I'm sure that people,
Yeah,
once they get into that area and have a look at it, will know exactly what they like and don't like.
absolutely.
Look, my next question, Saskia, is what role do you believe that independent animal rescues play in that space, in ending convenience killing? Because that's what it is, and regardless of whether those codes of practice allow for that horrible situation you've just described, or whether they have a almost a production line, if you like, of they use chemicals, lethal injection. Convenience killing is a horrible thing in and of itself. So what role do you believe that independent animal rescues play in ending that practice?
I think rescue groups should only be one small part of the solution. We should be a safety net for those animals that do not fare well in a shelter. But it is not and should not be our role to save all the animals that the pounds and shelters won't rehome. We are unpaid volunteers with full-time jobs. Those who have the power to really end convenience killing are ultimately those running our pounds and shelters, who are not embracing progressive and proven strategies to lower kill rates, and those lawmakers who allow an antiquated code of practice to make the killing easy, lawful, and behind closed doors. So until lawmakers and towns and shelters do better, I think the role of rescue groups needs to include advocacy. We need to shine a light on the woeful legislation that governs animal welfare in Victoria, and we need to blow the whistle on the convenience killing we see in our pounds and shelters, so that one day rescue group volunteers won't have to do the work that these facilities should be doing, and shelters and pounds will be a safer place for animals. I know that everyone in the rescue community is perpetually exhausted, perpetually poor. Their family relationships suffer, their personal relationships suffer, because the work we're doing now is just so huge and difficult, and it doesn't have to be this way. And a big shout out to all the rescuers watching. Victoria, there's hundreds, probably thousands of people that give up every spare moment to do the work that isn't being done by those in power that should be.
Really, really well put. Again, and look, everything that you're talking about there too, that has clearly a very state-based focus for here in Victoria at present. But I mean, I know that on top of all of that work that you're doing, is that lovely kisses, that you're getting on top of that, you're putting together and establishing Companion Animal Rescue Australia. And I'm sure that everyone, because just by the sounds of that name, it sounds like this is something that you've decided that you have a higher calling, if you like, that this can't just be a state-based reform, that there is a scope for this to be much more national. And I'm assuming that by the name. Can you expand upon that and about what the role of that organisation will be and the types of things you're trying to get done?
Sure. Well, it's early days, but I think my answer touches a bit on what I've just said, that rescue is a band-aid solution to the bigger problems of in our pounds and shelters across Australia, and that is that a large majority of them are simply not doing the work they're paid to do. So the role of Companion Animal Rescue Australia will be to hopefully inspire people at a local level to get more involved with what is happening in their community, within their council, with convenience killing, to ask the questions, where do the homeless pets in my community go to? What are the kill rates? And to provide a bit of advice and guidance for people wanting to advocate at the local level. We also want to obviously discuss, be at the table with government decisions, to put forward the point of view of shelter workers as well as rescuers. A lot of the people that are interested in being part of the either work in shelters now or used to, and they've brought horrific stories to me as a rescuer about what they see and experience on a day-to-day basis, and they want their voices to be heard too. And to shine a light on the realities. Australia, I think, is a nation of animal lovers, and if most Australians, most Victorians, what really goes on doors, they would demand change. So I think we really all need to do, speak out, and it can be frightening, particularly for people who work in the industry and think if I do speak out, I'll never get a job again in the animal welfare industry, and for rescuers to rescuers can be held to ransom by pounds and shelters to remain silent about what they see, with the sometimes the veiled threat and sometimes the obvious threat that if you go to the media about this or Facebook, you will not rescue another animal from this pound. So it's an incredibly I can't even think of the right word, horrible situation that a lot of people deserve to see changed, and the animals really, really need us all to speak out.
That is a terrible situation because it forces people who have such compassion for companion animals to operate in a space that's of fear, in effect, and that's completely opposite to the reason why they got involved in the first place.
Yeah, it's animal welfare is the only, and working in a pound or shelter is probably, I think, the only job on earth where you go to work to kill what you love. And that is responsible for a high rate of suicide, for drug and alcohol abuse amongst pound and shelter workers just to cope. And, that's another sort of unquantified, financial and human toll that convenience killing also engenders. So, ending convenience killing isn't just about helping the animals, it's about helping the people who are directly caring for them and are desperate to see them leave the pound and shelter alive.
I think that sentence that you said just before encapsulates convenience killing completely. It's the only job where you go to work every day to kill the animals that you go and intend to set out to save. I think that encapsulates that all. I'm paraphrasing a little bit there. And if you don't mind, I'd like to go back over this a bit later and pull that sentence out. And if you're okay with it, I think we'd like to use that as a line in social media, as a headline, if that's okay with you, because I really think you've really hit the nail right on the head with that.
Absolutely. It's the truth. And, a lot of my dear friends work in pounds and shelters or have recently left. And a lot of them leave with PTSD and simply don't recover and can't work with animals ever again. And that's a huge loss. And, these are incredibly brave, selfless people who certainly don't deserve to have their lives damaged like this.
Well, yeah. Look, well, Saskia, despite all of that, those awful experiences and what we've all just spoken about, the bright light is here, and that's the story that we really want to tell is that there are amazing people just like you and doing this work, and that they are fantastic people and they've got such big hearts, and the rest of the community that does feel so strongly about this should feel reassured when they know that people like yourself are out there doing that work and setting these organisations up like you have, and just looking out for those poor animals that don't have a choice in where they end up, and a choice in their lives, And look, and on that note, Saskia, if you could leave our listeners with one thought today, what would it be?
I think it's really important that listeners realise that as a community member, it is your rates that fund your local council pound. It is your donations that fund the animal shelters if you support them. And as such, you have the right to demand transparency. You have the right to ask questions about their kill rates. what their facilities rehoming programs are, what rescue groups they work with, and how your rates and donations are being spent. Homeless animals belong to our community, I believe, and it is our job to advocate for them as they don't have a voice. And many in our community don't even know which pound or shelter their homeless animals end up at if they become lost or surrendered. So do ask these questions of your local council. Ask what the kill rates are for your community's animals, and tell your local councillors and your state member that you care about the fate of companion animals in your community and you want to see better legislative protections for them as well. I very much believe that this movement has to start at the grassroots, council by council, and that's the only way we'll see change across the broader picture.
Mm. Well, thank you so much for that, Saskia, and thank you so much today for your very powerful story and for the ray of light that you are shining in this area. It's really powerful as well, and I thank you so much for the work that you continue to do for animals that are in need. And thanks again, and just keep going, and hopefully we'll have some great news for you a bit later in the year.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, and thank you for all you're doing for animals in Victoria, Andy.
Cheers. Bye for now.